Roy's our boy!
Everyone loves Roy. He's so cool and epic, especially in his home game, Super Smash Bros. Melee. Very unlike his imposter, Roy in
Fire Emblem, the Binding Blade,
where he is commonly considered one of the worst units and potentially even the worst lord in the entire series. So I ask you, dear viewer, can I beat the Binding Blade with only Roy? No, I can't. It's impossible. Roy is definitely that bad. With average or even slightly above average stats, Roy will simply die on his own. So why in the footage am I starting a hard mode file?
That's right, we're gonna cheat.
I and most people could not beat the game in this way, but what if his stats weren't that bad? There's a reason this video is titled differently from the rest of my challenge runs. Essentially, all I did was mod the ROM to give Roy 100% gross in every stat, making this challenge more of a theoretical run, where Roy locks in to stop a war by himself. If you don't like that, trust me, it's still pretty hard, because cap stats don't make a foot-locked, sword-locked unit good. And also, we're playing on hard mode and getting the true ending, because I want just a little bit more pain. So, let's discuss the rules, eh? I would totally just only deploy Roy, but this game has some strict rules to get the true ending. Namely, turn limits, and also it'd be kinda boring to only move 5 tiles a turn. So Roy's the only one that can attack with a weapon, but I can freely use allies for any other purpose. Rescuing, healing, dancing, trading, being used as a human shield are all valid and encouraged to get this done. So let's get into it, shall we? Chapter 1 is typically easy, but hard mode actually scales up early game maps really hard, so it'll still require some finesse. Obviously we can't use the other units, but giving iron swords to Roy will help save rapier uses, which is essential as effective weapons are incredibly necessary. The strategy I use is actually completely backwards, but it worked anyways. What you should do is block the bottom of Roy and top with unarmed units, but I can always just use vulneraries and emulator rewind if I get bad RNG from these 4D hit rates. Oh, right, I should probably say that I will be using save states and rewinds extensively. It doesn't matter too much early on, but with how low the hit rates are and how bad Roy is, it's extremely necessary to not pull my hair out. Besides that, I send a cavalier down to get the money village and just dispatch the initially aggressive enemies. Because of the way enemy orders and GBA works, having enemies body block themselves is an actual strategy, which is very helpful. Since Roy is obviously leveled good, the enemies at the top aren't an issue anymore. My Roy is at level 6 and he's already better than Marcus. Bro fell off on chapter 1, that's crazy. Roy also faces a displayed hit of 18% against the boss, so I don't even heal him and he 2-rounds the boss and gains... Bro, you kidding me? 99 XP? Also, fun fact, my first ever attempt trying to play this game ended with me accidentally killing Roy on the boss when low 2... Oh my god, I can't... yes, low 2. 2 low percentage hits hit. You know, because 2 of them hit because they're low, but like, I didn't expect it. Yeah, I mean, it just feels kind of right to destroy him like this. Chapter 2 features soldiers who wield lances, which means Roy's at weapon triangle disadvantage, but they're very weak anyways. The top village is very important as armors will forever be a Roy's bane, and this is the only one you get for a while. Otherwise, camping the fort and slowly getting the Deke squad out, you know, the Deke squad with your Deke and your Deke. I love my Deke. Getting them out with Chana is the sorry, getting them out with her is the best bet. I fumble around for a bit trying to get units to not attack so that my rules aren't broken, but eventually I make it through. Deke must survive a few turns of being attacked, but he's relatively strong at this point, so he's fine. I would say it wouldn't have mattered if he died, but he does bring 2 nice swords with him. Also, Roy can start rounding some units now, which is nice to make this way faster. Units with javelins are annoying as he can't counter them in any way. Also, at level 8, Roy either matches his expected average at level 20 or exceeds them in everything except HP. Which, by the way, that's actually a bad thing due to the way re-rolling stats work. Healing and rescuing also makes this much faster. The top right is easy, but I realized I didn't grab the armor slayer, so I have to get Shauna all the way back over the mountain to give it to Roy. Roy does almost no damage with anything that isn't effective, so yeah. Also, the armor slayer 1-rounds the boss, which I oblige because it's funny. Oof. Roy 1-rounds even the soldiers now, which is such a privilege. Just kidding, he doesn't do that with an iron blade in this one. It's just kinda mean, man. I still have to huddle my other units in the bottom as we still don't have battle preps. Roy would have died here, but the hit rates are bad, so we're fine. He's also at A rank weapons already, which means there is no more room for improvement, as promoting automatically gives him an S rank. I realized the top left village has a single archer, and so I have to move Roy all the way there so I can get the unit I won't use. I end up breaking the iron sword, which is actually, you know, gonna be more of a factor in this run than how dangerous the enemies are, because having enough enemies so I'm not softlocked is, you know, pretty good. But it's fine right now because Roy just outstats everybody. We get a thief and can open chest, which I do for a useless halberd and gold, or in this circumstance, gold and more gold. I once again decide to indulge in one-rounding the boss because, well, it's funny, but it's kind of dumb because this armor slayer is pretty limited, but well, womp womp. This chapter is somewhat unfortunate. Due to the way hard mode works, I may or may not be able to one-round some cavaliers depending on RNG, but it doesn't matter too much yet. I just face tank them. Also, Clarion arrives as a green unit who I knew wouldn't be attacked, but I actually didn't know she wouldn't be attacked even when she's a blue unit, which would have been nice to know. But, I mean, I think that's true. Editor me will check. She auto-recruits herself because Roy is right there. I move her away to my non-knowledge of the map, and Roy caps his speed, which is what I'll have to deal with for 20 more chapters. Famous unit Rucker kills himself. My units get attacked from behind and I decide to reset. I just optimize my turns more, and I sack Merlinus as they'll come back every chapter anyways. Locke gets killed by 52%, which is fine. I use my new mage as a door, as the cavalier misses a killing blow, and once again, AI order means he doesn't get attacked at 2 range. I block the archer to the left from attacking and use Marcus to wall off the remaining enemies to take my time. Roy caps his strength, skill, and defense on the remaining few enemies. For the next few chapters, most enemies just won't damage me, which is nice before endgame eats me up. I kill the boss with a 5% crit because Roy wanted to save me a weapon usage. What a boy. Also, apparently there's a Seraph robe at some point in this chapter. You already know who I used it on. There is nothing interesting to say about this map. There's a small amount of reinforcements, but it genuinely does not matter. I think the village had a lance? Easy enough. Also, I don't know how to open this door and genuinely don't care enough to look it up, but it probably would have made it easier. And Roy is just just shy of one-rounding the boss. His strength is capped, and he's at weapon triangle advantage. Game design. First map with battle preps, yay! Saul immediately dies as a sacrifice, but Dorothy, she's spared. I quickly open Sue's door and caps Roy level, gaining HP and luck. What excellent stats. I just block the choke with Roy and Kath arrives, but I don't care enough to try to get her as it's not worth the effort. I make sure I actually recruit Sue, unlike my first playthrough where I didn't realize there's a door there. She has to be recruited and alive for Sakei's true ending, so I'll at least keep her alive in case I do that. I get the treasure I can and kill the boss easily. Welcome to Chapter 7, considered one of the map. Yes, it is one of the maps of all time. It's considered one of the hardest maps in the entire game. So, the enemies are numerous, wyverns are introduced, and you have to rush to get units. One of them being a requirement to stay alive for the Ilya true ending. I try a few opening moves, but none of them really do much, and it ends up that Roy's the only one alive, including the green units. There's just too many enemies. This does mean I have to go to Sakei, which I probably would have done anyways because I've never played it before. I wanted Merlis to stay alive so I could sell some things, but it's fine. I just wipe out the enemies and slowly get all the villages. Reinforcements spawn, I kill them, gaining a killing edge, a rapier, and a bunch of other gold or items worth gold. I kill the boss with the rapier as its lower might makes it less worthwhile than an armor slayer. Chapter 8 is very easy to solo even normally, with Lena being moved out of range, a new thief, and some new recruits dying because they don't matter. Even normally, they're all basically worthless. Kath and another thief take some treasure, which actually wouldn't have happened if I killed Kath, which I didn't know at the time. This is unfortunate as it makes me push fast and realize you can't even steal weapons regardless of if they're equipped in this game, losing me the light brand. I recruit Lulina, a requirement for the Gaiden chapter, and just kill the rest of the enemies, also getting the treasure. If I knew what I was doing, I would have killed Kath, as it straight up makes the game easier, but oh well. The boss, despite being a general, is quite avoidant, but I just stab him 2 times as an armor slayer. This map is infamous, mostly for the boss being ridiculous for this point in the game, but I have no reason to actually engage with the map as XP is meaningless, so I simply skip it. Using Shauna, I can fly over half the map and only attempt to engage the boss. Some enemies attempt to charge, but I get to the boss fast enough anyways. Despite having 18 speed, Henning gets weighed down enough for Roy to double him, which is convenient to attack on player phase, kill on enemy phase, and then seize, which is what I do, except no I don't, because I try to rig a crit for some reason. This is completely unnecessary, but I think it's my first time seeing Roy's unpromoted crit animation, which is pretty mid, and I get to see it many more times. Blast. We get to Durandal, which I would love to use, but can't because Roy can't get S-rank swords. This map is slightly annoying and caused me to play Doki Doki Literature Club instead of wanting to play it. The problem is, I want the village with the silver sword, but also must keep Shin. This game didn't get localized. I don't know which is the true one, and honestly, whatever. I have to keep him alive, which I don't realize my first attempt. Roy must essentially be in 2 places at once, so my support squad isn't killed. Doesn't help that this fog of war. Her must also die because, well, she needs to. That makes no sense. Why did I write it like that? Whatever. I kill Sin because I forgot I needed him. I do almost the whole map before I look at the wiki and realize. But yeah, I make several more attempts and then give up for a week to let myself think for a bit. My strategy involves rescuing Roy over the mountain and hoping Sin goes to Roy as Roy can't counter and Sin can't do damage. Then I rescue Roy back over and let Sue recruit Sin. Unfortunately, this means the left village is destroyed, meaning I don't get to see Bartray and his sick muscles. Unfortunate. I lose the right village too, but honestly, who cares? The rest of the map is easy, and the boss has 0 hits. This map is irrelevant besides hitting us with a new banger. I recruit Roy and Sin just so he can get a few points of XP from being attacked, as if I am forced onto Ilya, I would no longer be able to get the true ending, as Zealot is dead. Rush the boss and village, have the pirate guy die, and that's about it. This map I also rush for Shauna and Loram, and the only item I get is the Seraph Robe, as the other items don't matter. Echidna somehow doesn't die despite being equipped with... I don't know why I said probably, it is the worst weapon in the whole game. I leave her to eventually die anyways. I don't care, this map is bullshit. I try to get the treasure and stuff, and I even rig like 70% misses, but it's so draining and it ends in failure. The time limit does not help. With 2 ranged enemies I can't kill means that to get other units over, it'd take forever. This time, I make sure I kill Kath though, to make the next time she appears not have a time limit anymore, because... game design. I miss out on what I believe is the only Lance River in the whole game, but honestly it wasn't as big a deal as I thought it would be. I killed the boss with the Worm Slayer, and Roy is entirely correct in that this was not easy. I didn't like this one. I quickly skipped the cutscene before I'm told any more slurs. That's for me to learn in Path of Radiance instead. Easy map, 90% of the treasure is worthless, and I just look up the ones that aren't and get them. Waste of 30 minutes of my life. Roy can't double the boss, but it's fine because he has very low hit rates. I really get hit by that crit. The boss dies and I get Armads, and man, I wish I could have 38 attack with Roy. Okay, now I can probably stop skipping chapters so much. The likelihood to 1 round is low with cheap weapons besides frail enemies. The amount of enemies is just ridiculous, and reinforcements trickle in even more. I am forced into a interesting situation with all the Cavaliers and Paladins. I try other strategies, but I basically have to just deal with all of the enemies if I want to do this chapter reasonably, and get the villages, which are both useful. The only body ring and an owl sword. I give up on Merlinus' survival and just trade some items to sell later. Otherwise, easy but slow to take out the Cavaliers. Not sure why I gave them favorable terrain, but whatever. I have to trade him some items to survive, and he even dies by a 24% hit. Good thing I have save states, I am not doing that again. The rest of the enemies I take on easily, including the boss. The shop sells killing edges, which I make sure to buy tons of, as they are, for some reason, just better steel swords, besides durability. And I have basically no other use for my plentiful amount of mommy. Sorry, I mean money. Just of the slip of the tongue. My bad. Alright, I never did any sports with Roy's. Nobody else can stand up to how epic he is. That's what I tell myself every day. Anyways, onto the most interesting puzzle map I think I've ever figured out. This map is usually a tedious desert, fog of war, 25 turn limit, and escort mission. Just because, I guess. Since this is a solo run, well, there's only 1 unit that can attack, which is bad when I have to be everywhere on the map at once. Roy's movement on sand is a pitiful 2. And the staff user you get on this map also having 2 movement is just fantastic. but she will be my new staff user until I get one with A rank for warp. My main strategy is just going to be flyers carrying Roy where he needs to be while my thief and other units can get the treasure. As a note, I used an RNG manipulation to get the sand treasure with any unit by soft resetting and checking a portrait. Save states and looking up locations of enemies make it so I don't have an aneurysm doing this. I make sure Roy uses the boots as soon as possible so he gets a fantastic 3 movement on sand. I also pick up the silver card easily as I send Roy to the top right to wipe out the enemies there with lucky crits. Merlinus just dies as a decoy and Cecilia gets put to sleep. The funniest part is that I optimized so hard I didn't even kill these unarmed guys, so they just kind of follow me around. I make my way around the top, critting 2 particularly direct. Bro, I can't speak. I'm put in some precarious positioning when I reach the top right, but with some rescuing and dancing, I can put out enough kills to save myself. Sophia also gets the only thing saving her from being the worst unit in would say a series, but there's probably somehow worse units. Silver Blade is incidentally gained by being in my way, and it's really bad. Did not use it. At this point, the only thing stopping me from just killing the boss is the warp staff, which is guarded by a bunch of enemies due to reinforcements. My guys are flanked by more reinforcements too, which is not great. I have Melody and range to get it, but there's 2 guys there. Oops. I'm just hoping she doesn't die, and oh shit, that's my dancer. You somehow had enough move to get her. Since I've already committed my save state, I kinda have to hope she survives, and Melody will just live with a dodge as well. Saves coming for a 55% miss is fine. Too many bosses die too. I am comfortably in a good position, even turn-wise at 21, but unfortunately have to rig quite a bit to kill the boss, as I can't even one-shot him with a crit. Gets down to 1 HP though. Just trade Roy an Iron Sword and dance to finally beat that. And yes, Roy, that was indeed a difficult battle, good lord. This map probably could have been warp skipped or something. I don't know, I just butt my head against a wall for like a bunch of turns while Roy is stuck in the water, so yeah, Lamau. Wait, warp user? I literally don't have any. I could have trained one, but that's really boring. When I'm unstuck, I just walk up to the boss and crit him and the map is over. Chapter 15 is easy if you don't care about the hammer, but I do, so I have to skedaddle over there quickly. Also, Percival's squad rushes you, but you can just recruit him, and if you keep his green units, you get a Night Crest. If you still need to promote in a normal playthrough in a game, what are you even doing? Percival is so cracked. Holy crap. My first try, one of the green units attracts a wyvern, so I have to attempt to recruit him turn 3 instead of 2 to make sure I secure that Night Crest. Yeah. Oh yeah, Roy can't even double unpromoted mercenaries anymore, so I have to rig crits against them now. Fantastic. I move Roy as fast as possible by himself and secure the village. Kinda just fly Roy over the mountain and drop him next to the boss. Sack Marcus to keep the green units alive. Okay. RNG rig to keep the green units alive, jeez. Kill the boss and seize. Chapter 16 makes you keep a red unit, Douglas, from killing himself on you so you can get the true ending. You also see the member card and Zeus, who is also required to live for the true ending. Usually you would split your units up to make this map 2% more fun, but well, can't really do that here. Or can I? I have to keep careful eyes on siege tomes and offensive staves, but Roy is a good lightning rod for those anyways, just be careful. I come up with such a stupid idea, but I have to see if it works. I clear out the initial enemies in the middle room, but then retreat back to the right to kill those guys. I also recruit Hugh for the lowest possible price because his stats don't matter. I use Roy as a wall against the enemies so Douglas can get in front of the conga line, all while the mages use bolting for like 5 damage. Once the durability is gone, I use Lorum, my frail dancer, to plug this hole, where basically every enemy will try to go. Since Lorum is Douglas's daughter, he shouldn't really be trying to kill her, but his movement priority is also first, so he will just stand here forever until another enemy is in his range. Since Kath is dead, there is no thief reinforcements, and thus, no time pressure, meaning the rest of this map isn't worth talking about. So many enemies get choked that I have to look at this map. So many enemies get choked. Wait. Choked by who? Sorry. I have to look at the map to have a screenshot show the full image. I kill some guys, get the chest, recruit Zeus, buy lockpicks I don't bother using, and finally, max Roy's HP. I aggro a few enemies going to the right treasure, but only a few, so it doesn't really matter. The boss is actually pretty tanky, so it takes multiple rounds of combat to kill him. I also steal his goods. Then eventually kill him after a while. I RNG rig just because I wanted the kill to be a cool crit. because it's cool. 16x is easy enough to just walk up to the boss and kill him. My first attempt Roy got berserked, but I just reset anyways. The boss is annoying because of his luck and physics though. Fog of War. I make it harder on myself by trying to buy some weapons, but besides that, it's really easy. I just end up killing way too many enemies, then walking up to the boss and killing him. Welcome to Hell, also known as Sakai. While they're not actually too hard, they will deprive me of my sanity by being incredibly annoying. Although most of it could have been avoided if I just had a warp user, to be honest. Either way, I just attempt to rush the boss and it takes a while until I figure out the correct solution to rush him fastest. He also has a brave sword and high speed, so he's very annoying. And his name is Monkey. I try to rig crits and it goes well, but he gets healed. So I basically have to unrig a crit so he isn't healed, and then has low enough HP to be killed by a crit. It takes way too long. Screw this map, man. I'm gonna cut out hours of stupid nothing and just say, there is no strategy to cheese this map. I had to slowly, very slowly, kill every single enemy on this map individually to beat this. This took hours. It probably took years off my lifespan alone. Please, for the love of God, you ever do this challenge, whether it's through hacks or grinding, get a warper, do it. I tried to cheat one in, but honestly, Cecilia's magic is so bad it wouldn't have helped. And I wanted the villages. I mean, I have to cap that luck stat, come on. But yeah, this sucked. Boss, despite being avoidant and doubling me, was like, whatever, besides him getting a funny crit. Though I just used that for me since I knew the RNG that would crit. And then he did it again. And then I did it again. Epic. Another epic Sakai map. Yippee! This one's actually fine even with the time limit. Although, my first run, I forgot about the time limit and wondered why I didn't go to 20x. It's only 25 turns and you have to recruit day in. Got the treasure and everything, it's nothing too special besides me running out of Armor Slayer uses and having to use the Weak Raper. Welcome to probably the worst map in this whole game, maybe even series. But I will trivialize it in such a stupid way because I don't want to play this crap anymore. The gimmick is that the seize point is random, and a bunch of stupid garbage like offensive staves, but I just looked up how to rig this RNG and found a Reddit post that said a method. If it didn't work, I would have honestly just reset until it was the one I wanted anyways, but I warped Roy to where it would be, which is extremely close, and then seized and won. I also killed the boss. I don't know why I didn't put that there, but yeah, I feel so much accomplishment. Anyways, chapter 21. The last chapter that is actually challenging in any way, and it's just because of the turn limit. It's 30 turns, which is greater than the others, but that's ridiculous for the sheer amount of enemies this map has. Thankfully, the reinforcements are zone-based, so if I'm smart, I don't have to deal with any. But the enemies are crazy strong, and Roy will likely not run around any without effective weaponry or a crit or two. This is really bad since he can kill some of them only on player phase, and not counting reinforcements, there's 31 enemies at the field at the start, which would make me negative on turns if I need one player phase action to kill each one. That one's theoretically though. The game is nice enough to not give every wyvern a javelin. You also get Yoder, who can freely use the S-rank stab, which fully heals everyone to full. Yes, fully heals everyone to full, thanks me. Which I make sure I use as enemies can damage Roy very easily. Surprisingly, it only takes me like an hour and a half to beat it. My strategy is to rush Roy towards around the middle, aggro everything, and kill the ones with 2 range on player phase with a crit or effective weapon. I haven't talked much shopping, but I do sell some things since I'm too full for the insane amount of boots I'm gonna buy. Make sure you warp Roy turn 1 so that he immediately starts killing things, and Merlinus won't be able to get out of the starting area. You can freely have him buy or sell everything. I have to maneuver my other units and even reset, as sometimes wyverns would rush them instead of Roy, which is bad. Once I'm in a groove though, it's not too bad. Spamming the right arrow to skim through this footage is actually hurting my fingers, so I hope you don't mind if I don't analyze each individual turn of me just attacking and RNG rigging like everything. Once the aggressive enemies are gone, I send an Uber driver to pick up my order of 13 pairs of Jordan 1 Chicagos. Roy's warped into the boss room and I just fight him with the armor slayers you can buy at the start of this map. I then physic up Roy so he doesn't die to the sage and seize. This map is easy, but since I optimized the last map heavily, I have to optimize using boots at the start of the map, as enemies will try to kill me. But yeah, eventually I just walk to the boss and kill him. Roy is promoted, baby! Absolute W. Now his stat caps are 5 points higher than before. Okay then. He also gets the Binding Blade, which is strong but has limited uses. Yeah, obviously this map is nothing. It's pretty easily normally too. But I can't type. It's pretty easily. It's easy. The last room I take a bit fast, but it lets me appreciate the Binding Blade animations at least. I block the remaining reinforcements with some units and actually use the Durandal because Roy has S-rank swords and +5 strength. I wanted to be cool and use the Binding Blade to kill Zephiel by dancing Roy, and you got a crit. This map took me literally 15 minutes to play. Warp Roy to the top, and that's literally it. He caught Berserk, but the Saint Staff, it cleansed it. This map requires Fade, but it does not matter. This map is boring and easy, but at least the boots somewhat make it less tedious. I have so many dragon effective weapons, so who even cares? After a round, way too long. The Durandal broke, but that doesn't matter at this point. Excuse me. I reached the boss, who I two-shot with the Binding Blade, is what I would say, but Roy got a 5% crit. I think I just get crits when it's comedically relevant now. If you played this game, you know where this is going. Yes, that was a 4% crit. Why this happened again is pulling, but you know. Oh well. Anyways, this run was a ton of fun. I initially planned on doing like a theoretical run first and then see how far I can get with the average gross, but I'm actually really satisfied with just this, and also take like another 20 hours. I don't want to do that. Roy is such a goat. I just wanted to see if he could beat the entire war by himself. Honestly, super glad I thought of something like this, and it's something that I kind of doubt anyone else has tried. Or, well, I've seen other attempts of Roy solos, but they seem to have been given up on, I think. If anyone wants to try to do this legitimately, I mean, I don't know why you would, but I guess I hope someone does. It's a unique challenge to try to use a unit as terrible as Roy, and some of these maps were actually pretty interesting with this. I fully anticipated the late game would be easy, but this genuinely felt like a puzzle. I just slot the pieces perfectly in, and I love that. FE6 is a game I think is perplexing in the series, and I think challenges like this enrich it much more. Bad game design and all. As my first hard mode playthrough, I'm proud of it. Maybe I'll even do a cool, unique challenge for the other two games, as I haven't even beaten them period yet. It's a little hard to enjoy something you're so thoroughly bored by. I don't really want to make this mistake again, but if you like the GBA games, that's perfectly fine. I think some of them are just not for me. Playing a second one normally just isn't something I really care about right now. But on that note, thanks for watching. I really hope you guys enjoyed this run. Subscribe, like, do all that cool stuff. I'd really appreciate it. And as I probably have Roy's epic stats going by in the background, have a good one. I'll see you next time. Also, yes, I did leave Roy maidenless. It was not intentional, but it's really funny.